resources from, getting his
it's like
army up.
Counter-Strike when you like know you sprayed a guy. It's like, I know you got like 2 hit points. What do you have left? It's
Yeah,
like, actually,
exactly.
I had 60.
I mean, from Thorzain's point of view, to take a loss in that game has got to be devastating going into this third game.
Yeah, and something to very wisely what TJ Wheat said is that Socke will most likely just try to play as slow as possible, take this third base, sit and build that army. The question I have, you know, that I really would love to ask Thorzain is he not going to play? Is he not going to sit back? Is he not going to play the spoon style? Will he try aggression? Will he try mid-game aggression here, which has been the key most recently with victories on the Terran behalf against Protoss, where they nail that mid-game timing in between tech changes, in between grabbing third Nexus and so on, which is where Protoss seem to be the weakest.
Well, I know Adabisi over there is getting upset at us because we forgot to introduce the players, Apollo. So down here in the bottom right-hand corner will be Thorzain as the red Terran. Up in the top left will be Socke as the blue Protoss.
13 gateway, slam down, and that's become pretty much the norm. You only really see 12 against Protoss, just to be safe against 4 gates really, or have the same warp gate timing is probably the correct answer there. But we do have a lot of probes queued up there by Socke, looking for that 17 gas most likely once again to get that early Nexus down. Thorzain gasless himself, and I mean, you're not really going to see anything else from these two guys at the start of the game. Both of them are very heavily dedicated to their fast Nexus play rather than taking a risk or gamble and try to do anything explosive early on. But I'm still wondering, because I don't think Socke is going to try. You think at the way this series has been played out, game number 1, he goes 1 gate expansion, very similar like this, but adds on 3 more and gets absolutely hammered in the game. Thorzain destroys him. But in game number 2, if he plays his slower style, he has success. So leading into game number 3, does Thorzain try something here?
Well, that basically will be told to us in just a little bit. Quite the different games. I want to go back to that. Game 1 and Game 2 felt like we were watching an entirely different series.
Yeah.
That was actually the most aggressive I've ever seen Socke play a PVT before. So let's see if he goes for something like that or goes for that slow and steady passive play. I don't think I've seen a game. I'd love to see what his average game time is in this matchup from the qualifiers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it must be long. We had actually an SCV inside the main that was actually, it went to build a barracks, it went to build a second barracks, but then as soon as he saw the early Nexus, he was like, all right, and actually brought the SCV back and clearly had already chosen upon seeing the faster Nexus that he wants that third command center to come down nice and early. So we know the question, and I get my answer. It's not going to be any mid-game aggression. He's not going to get stimuli. He's not going to get early medivacks. He's actually going to play a patient style once again. And on this map, it doesn't really cut in half to where you are almost mining bases. You know, you could both mine from the same bases in the center position there. So I'm very interested to see if Thorzain has completely different plans and just is like, hey, you know, I actually can play perfectly fine late game on this map.
And let's see if Socke is going to be able to read. Last game, he threw down that third Nexus very early on as kind of a counter to what Thorzain was doing, and got so far ahead of Thorzain because Thorzain was denied his third as some mind games occurred with a pylon being thrown down. Let's see what Socke has in store here. A probe's actually on his way, and I think he will be doing that. Meanwhile, over here at the natural, Thorzain, the bunker is not complete. Socke doing his best to take some damage into that marine count of Thorzain. Bunker finishes, and he will be forced off. Third Nexus thrown down.
And despite having 100 minerals lost in resource difference, is that he does have 1 marine in complete red and 1 in orange, which basically equalizes that. But oh my god, third Nexus coming down for Socke at the top there. Well, that's one way to approach this game. Once again, very similar to the previous game on Daybreak.
Hey, if they give us a macro game, I'll eat that up, man. I think everyone watching this will eat this macro game up. It's the most exciting stuff to see. No one wants to see a third game in an incredible series like this go a cheesy way. So I'm excited, man.
4th barracks been added on by Thorzain here. She will, of course, increase his production just by that extra barracks a little bit here. but he does delay his factory and also engineering bay. So despite having 3 command centers, he could put some pressure on his opponent here by having a slightly larger army. But he needs to know what's going on for his opponent. He doesn't know about a 3rd Nexus coming down, of course. He doesn't know if his opponent's about to do a 2-base all-in. And he is idly checking with the SCV outside, sees his Stalk of it. He's actually going to go and try to pick this off. Is he going to get it? Is Socke going to react?
And it barely gets away. 4 HP. It might as well be dead, though, there.
Equally as important, an SCV did escape, though, or on the right-hand side, is actually going to try and make its way around to scout for that 3rd base. Is it there? Is it not? And can give key information to Thorzain on what his next move should precisely be.
It is coming back now. Let's see if he sends that cross map. It should go into the range of that Stalker in the middle of the map. Looks like he's going to wrap around the bottom.
Oh, I think he's not really using it to scout his opponent. It's more he was using it to see if there was pilot on the right-hand side or a pilot on the south side to see if aggression could have potentially still come. And he's just going to not really scout at all. He's just going to play his game here. And upon approaching the, the 840 mark right now, you can already say your opponent's got a 3rd base. He hasn't hit me with aggression.
Right.
He's not doing a 2-base all-in. And that can be a little bit misleading for Thorzain, who, especially if Socke was like sitting back on, 3 or 4 Colossus right now and is like building an army about to go for the 10-minute mark. That could be misleading, but that's not Socke's style. So Thorzain can already eliminate that.
Medevac's about to start being produced here for Thorzain, and with that we should see a timing push with Stim and +1 finishing for Thorzain. Meanwhile, over in Zocke's side of things, army-wise, he's got a pretty formidable army. Thorzain a little bit ahead, but with that charge started, still no forges yet, though, for the Protoss player. And the observer count is already getting up to number 3 here for Socke. So scouting-wise, he will see Thorzain's army move out if he does decide to do so.
And I love the addition of Zealot Charge 2 over Blink. This is something that we haven't really brought up at all in this series, is when does Thorzain drop? Did you see him drop successfully at all? No. Compared to a lot of other players like Pulp or somebody else that drops consistently, that's why he's like, well, I don't really need to get Blink. I don't need to play in a defensive stance. He doesn't really leave units to defend against drops either against Thorzain. He actually just has his units all as one. And with Zealot Charge, of course, makes it a lot stronger here. But this is quite a strong push coming out from Thorzain. Very strong push here. With +1, remember, there's no upgrades on these units. I remember this time to say that. So this this army is pretty strong.
And here we go. Force field's being thrown down. Doing a pretty good job splitting this army, but he has to fall back. The force fields are going to fall with that. And Zocke's army is not in a good position. That was so much energy there. 2 sentries remain. And Thorzain can jump in wherever he wants, but the army was split up for a split second. And Socke using the charge to combat that army. But right now I think that Thorzain does have the advantage because he doesn't have enough force fields to drop.
And here's the 4 barracks actually come into play now that he has that extra wave of units here, and is doing extraordinarily well here. Sentries do survive, but as soon as that Zealot goes down, he'll target down 1, now 2, and now he's working on the Stalkers, and Socke takes an incredible drop, and actually, at the same time, throws down a 4th Nexus. This guy is crazy, and I think that he's kind of, expecting Thorzain to hold off a little bit now. Thorzain's achieved the damage. Is he going to continue to push through here? And that's a great little addition, I think, from Socke to grab this early 4th.
We'll see if it was too quick, though. A pretty big force for Thorzain right now in the middle. 2 Vikings are actually flying over here and going to land over at the natural. Will he move up with his force?
Well, the Templar Archives is about to finish, and he has so much gas banked up through building so many Zealots here. So he actually just warps in 6 High Templar. There are a couple of Vikings landing down here. Getting a couple of probe kills here.
Thorzain actually using this as a diversion. He saw the 4th base, and he's moving in with his forces. Forces of Socke are out of position. The Archon's morphing in over at the 3rd. Nexus is very close to being finished. Yeah, and it will get canceled. Thorzain, I think, was actually going to fall back there. He might have been able to let that finish.
Viking on the high ground of the natural, actually. Still alive. 5 kills, 6 kills, analysts, and is able to go and continue to scout. Look how many gateways there are, though, everybody. It's a lot of gateways, and he has no intention to go over to Colossus anytime soon. He's just trying to power through on 3 bases. Finally got rid of that gas with a High Templar count, and having Storm on the way, +2 also. And we also have a second star put coming down as well here through Thorzain, just being safe, making sure that's not there.
And of course, there is the MLG stat for the average game time of Socke on Entombed Valley, 15 minutes. This is right around the time, in about a minute or so, where he ends games.
Guys, the game's going to finish in a minute
It's going to end, guys. That's a stat.
That's what it says. Storm's about to complete with these double forges. He has taken, or will be taking, a lead in upgrades momentarily here, as Thorzain's at 1-1, soon to be Socke at 2-2 here. But for the meantime, Thorzain has a slight lead at 2-1. But that, of course, will be overtaken in time here. And we do have a Zealot scouting the 4th base of Thorzain, picking off the SCV, building it as well. That's a little bit frustrating, but he brings another one immediately to come keep that going. But more importantly, Socke knows that 4th base is coming down.
And we can see him moving out in the middle of the map, taking over control here. A couple of misrallied Marines. And will he actually go for the engagement over here? I'm not so sure. Thorzain looking like he wants to, of course, after those huge EMPs on every single Zealot, but the High Templar are right behind it with enough energy for Psystorm. Ghost leading the charge. Socke is going to fall back. I hope we're about to see another 45-minute game here, Apollo. It's looking kind of like it, as both players are very, very wary of actually forcing a huge fight. But Thorzain now moving over to the 4th.
Oh, snipes a High Templar at the back there, but is moving forward now. It's a pretty strong army. The Storms have to land. Good Storm. Pushes Thorzain back. Does a lot of damage, but EMPs and snipes are coming in now from these ghosts, healing up on the medivacs. Socke's force, though, is about to complete that 2-2 upgrade, and he will have an upgrade advantage here over his opponents.
And the force field's dropping, a great concave here for Socke. This army will get destroyed in the storms on everything. A couple of Marines now over at the natural stimming in. They're going to deal some damage. Look at the picture for that. But the army of Thorzain getting destroyed, and now with it, the medivacs as well, everything being lost there. Socke is doing so good here in game 3.
A magical engagement there for Socke, who has come from 0-1 behind in this series to leading in the final game here as he marches forward. Remember those gateways we talked about? He has a lot of production here and is now streaming forward. He has one storm available. That storm has to be crucial right above that ramp and nailed down into the production. The rocks aren't even broken down in between bases here. It's going to be very difficult for Thorzain to actually hold his. Socke going to nail down 2 EG players in one tournament.
And there are some Archon Forfeit and EMP landing on that High Templar, but is Thorzain going to be able to clean this up? No, the Zealot's connecting now against the Ghost. The army behind, but here come reinforcements for Socke across the map. A forward pylon now might seal the deal here, as so many units are being morphed in. Planetary nowhere to be seen. Good game. Socke comes back and takes the series.
Wow.
He has got to be so happy for himself. Look at him, he can't even believe it.
Wow. One great engagement in this matchup means absolutely everything. He had a slight upgrade advantage, a higher unit count because there's so many gateways. He was nowhere near looking to tech out. He had a perfect composition. Thorzain, of course, not looking too happy there, but Socke with a great victory, moving on to losers round 3.
Yeah. We will see what opponent or which opponent he's going to be playing. Guys, what do you think about this match over at the analysis desk?
I have so much to say, man. Socke making that 4th Nexus, desperation move. I have to distract Thorzain. I was looking at that. I think you were as well, saying, oh, Socke's dead here, man.
Yeah,
he lost way too many units in the middle of the map. Now he's like trying to make a 4th Nexus. It's crazy, but it's so crazy it just might work. Thorzain did not take advantage of it. He didn't attack. He went to the Nexus, and then after the cancel, he was like, I forced a cancel. I guess I can turn back. Then that just was not enough, and his economy, just like in the game before, was better than Thorzain's. He had really good storms, he had great engagements, and he pushed through, and I feel like Thorzain was a bit too passive. He actually had several moments there where the game was his. He just needed to grab it and finish him off.
Yeah, another thing, because of course in the production we get the ability to see both of the players' faces, and there was a point in that game, and it was right as Thorzain was making his initial push, Socke had a look of defeat on his face, but never give up, never surrender. I mean, he must have really took that to heart, because suddenly then it started to go back to that solemn Socke look that you expect to see. But we were commenting on it, and it does. It is like you couldn't take your eyes off of his face
he
because
looked
it looked
so
like
upset,
defeated,
man. He looked like
right?
he was about to cry almost on his face.
And to think he just brought it back. I mean,
He did,
everything
man.
worked in his favor.
Absolutely. Never give up, never surrender. He took all the risks. The Nexus desperation move was a move that paid off for him, and Thorzain just did not go for the kill. He's the spoon Terran. That's what he's known for. And in the end, that really came back to bite him.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of that match right there? The end of it. What could Thorzain have done differently?
I mean, Wolf kind of nailed it down there as much as possible. But I'm just thinking more so, JP, about how difficult of a path that Socke's, of course, had.
Yeah.
But how hard it's going to be from here on out. And we got some exciting news, JP, as we...
Yeah. So Zocke's next
bracket.
opponent, it's just DRG.
Dongray-gu is going to be his next opponent as we look at the loser bracket here. Of course, Dongray-gu going through sleep. Now, Socke's ultimate challenge is going to be, of course, the previous champion, man, the reigning champion.
And
of
Teffel
MLG.
beat Rhett.
And Teffel beat Rhett.
Oh,
Yeah, a second time.
Yeah,
you know, he
second
beat him in
time,
the
that's right.
qualifiers.
Yeah.
So
what did you think about the dream match? I think you guys were actually casting
Yeah,
that.
we
Right,
cast
so
those.
we watched Dream Idra here, and then of course Wolf and I are talking as the game's about to get started, and we're like, you know, the way that these two players play, the way that Dream's been opening, this could very well be like a longer game.
Right.
Losira, however, decides to open with a beta style Baneling bust.
one base Baneling bust with
one
speed.
base.
And then followed up with his trademark on Antigua Shipyard. He followed up with his trademark gold base aggression. It looked like he wanted to do a roach push from there, potentially even a Baneling push.
Yeah.
But Dream scouted, made a bunker, and Losira barely did not stop the bunker from going up, and the game just ended from there. He got his hatchery denied.
man.
All of his drones were like in a terrible spot.
And guys, I mean, he was literally a drone hit away from killing the SCV. It would have changed the game completely, but he was forced into a second all-in, which he certainly didn't want to do. But the series was over in like 12 in-game minutes.
Yeah.
The whole thing. It was insane. It was just insane.
super quick series. Great defensive play from Dream. And I feel like this guy is kind of an under-talked